Hey, what's up guys? Gladiator Garchomp here, and I just started a new Pokemon channel where I'm going to be talking all things Pokemon, and in this video, I am breaking down the Pokemon Winds and Waves trailer. We're just going to go frame by frame, going through the video. I'm going to be pausing it a lot and kind of talking about what I see on screen and what I think about it. So let's get into it. So we start in this house. They will show a house later in the trailer that I think this is. This looks like one of those kind of cabanas on the boardwalk over the water. So this is someone who was sitting here drawing, and we're going to go over those drawings in the trailer as well. But you can see kind of the wind blowing in. You can hear winds, you can hear waves, but it's definitely on the ocean here. And I think it's in that village. I think this is taking place in that little kind of village or series of cabanas on the boardwalk. So here you can see a drawing. There's some woods and some forest, some trees there. Maybe that's an eraser or just a rock to hold down the papers. And then maybe that's a pencil that they're drawing with. Here's Pikachu. Let me turn it down a little bit. So we got Pikachu, he came out of the woods. Where's he at? Maybe Kanto, maybe that's Viridian Forest. They turn the page. Okay, so yeah. So this is in Johto. So the first few times I watched this, I was like, why did they start on Johto and not Kanto? Well, this is Kanto right here. Your first time encountering Pikachu in black and white. Kind of reminiscent, I guess, to the Game Boy before the Game Boy Color. This is red and blue right here, Viridian Forest. Encountering Pikachu in Viridian Forest for the first time. Flip the page. Johto, what is this, Ekritique City? With the Kimono Girl, the Evolutions, Espeon and Umbreon. You can kind of see the Burnt Tower and the Sacred Tower or whatever with Ho-Oh. Kecleon, Swablu, some Pokeblocks here, Pikachu again. So I guess Pikachu's going to be in each one of these scenes. They're pointing to Kecleon on the bridge. You can kind of just see his belt, but he's invisible. He's right here. Here's the bike. So it's kind of making me think this is what the developers or Game Freak or the marketing team, I guess, making this trailer, what they think about when it comes to each region, each game. So for Hoenn, these are the things that come to their mind. So it's interesting to kind of get that view on things. Generation 4, here's Sinnoh, and they think of snow and log cabins. Is that the main trainer? I'm not sure. There's some Starlies, Mount Cornet, and then Snover, and Pikachu. So this is kind of what I think about the Sinnoh region as well. It's based on the northern region of Japan, where it's the coldest. They get the most snow. Generation 5. So when they think of Generation 5, they think of deer, they think of Sawsbuck, this bridge. There's Pikachu there, and there's that famous Ferris wheel from Unova, and that looks straight up like a grab out of the game. Looks like a screenshot out of the game. Here's Generation 6, introduction of the fairy type. Lumiose Tower, Go-Goat, Pikachu holding, oh, I forgot about those. It's like a little dessert you can feed your Pokemon with the interactive features on the 3DS. And then here's a Mega Evolution Stone, Lumiosites. Okay, so this is what they think of when they think of Generation 6. That's pretty good. Kind of nothing really going on here. Here is the Alola region. Now, I guess I should have mentioned this when we were at the Hoenn region. Hoenn, Alola, and this new Generation 10 are all going to be similar. They're all kind of island adventures, themes of water, ocean travel, island hopping. But Alola specifically was the celebration of the 20th or the 25th anniversary. Let me look that up. Alola celebrating 20th anniversary. Yeah, okay. So Sun and Moon were the 20th anniversary. So that was the last like decade anniversary for the Pokemon franchise. And so this was Game Freak's idea of a celebration. And I think that just kind of goes to show like Japanese culture. When they think of celebrating or traveling, they like to travel to kind of island-like places like Hawaii, because they're in the Pacific Ocean and those places are just kind of near them. So for vacation, that's what they do. They go to the beach, they go to islands, and they experience things like this. So to them, this is the ultimate celebration of a milestone, is going to island hopping adventures, going to vacation on the beach. And that's why Alola, representing Hawaii, was the 20th anniversary. And so now that makes me think Indonesia is kind of like their next kind of touristy celebration place that they're going to go. But I'm not sure how much tourism is there in Indonesia for Japanese specifically. Tourism from Japan to Indonesia is a significant market, with over 347,000 to 380,000 Japanese tourists visiting Indonesia between January and November in 2025. Okay, so I think that just kind of goes to show what they're thinking when they're thinking of this region. For Hoenn, I don't know necessarily that it was a celebration region. I just know that this is a good theme and they like the beaches and water and that kind of vibe, and that's probably why they did that with Generation 3. But that was still just based in Japan. But Alola is for sure an example of how they're thinking about this game. Here's Galar, Generation 8, following Alola, first mainline game on the Switch. When they think of the Galar region, they think of Dynamax Pikachu, the Dynamax kind of raid den here, and a wild area. And then pretty quickly they shift over to Generation 9, the most recent generation. Here is the Blueberry or Naranja Academy. And they think of the Terrestrial Balls. There's Pikachu. There's a little Gimmighoul on the bottom here. And they think of, these sort of Pokemon here. Okay, so interesting. That I feel like when I think of Generation 9, I think more of like the Area Zero area, but and then after Generation 9 it's Generation 10. And so what do they think of when they think of Generation 10? Here we go. This is it. You can kind of see these kind of cabana-like buildings on a sort of boardwalk over the ocean. And I believe that is similar to a building that this live action scene is taking place, where the person is drawing. So you see Pikachu kind of like a tourist looking out over the ocean here, sitting like in a vacation spot in a cabana with it open, with the wind coming through, the waves. And so that's kind of the essence and the vibe that they're going to want us to feel in this generation, is like a tourist, is like somebody on vacation, relaxing at the beach, listening to the winds and the waves. And that's what they're trying to express here with this picture. So here's a live action looking Pikachu. It's very fuzzy. I don't know how everyone reacted to that, but it's kind of interesting. And then there's a knock. So somebody goes and opens the door. They look down, they hear the winds and the waves. And then there's two shadows walking up. And that is Windychu and Wavychu. We'll see them in a second. Here's those flowers again. There's a kind of a briefcase in the background there, like somebody's touristy briefcase. And after your eyes adjust from the sunlight, it gets revealed, these two characters here. That's Miss Windychu and Mr. Wavychu. And they are dressed appropriately for each respective game. And wins, you'll be dressed more like a cowboy with these type of white clothes with the cowboy hat. And in waves, you're wearing more of like a sporting cap that's blue, and you're wearing blue colors. And so these guys are dressed appropriately. And you'll notice with these Pikachus, to me, they appear a darker yellow or a darker orange even. And so that's kind of indicating that they're tan. And that reminds me of Samsonite. He's in Hawaii, or Alola, the Pokemon equivalent. And here we are in Indonesia, a touristy place that Japanese people go, like the Game Freak employees, whenever they think of celebrating and doing something like a vacation to relax from the year of hard work that they've been producing games and everything like that. They think of going to vacation at the beach. And so here's some Pikachus that are on vacation. They're tanned like Samson Oak. And you can see the variants. This is a male and it's a female with the tail. And you'll notice the female even has a sort of purplish hue instead of red cheeks. So that could just be an aesthetic thing, like makeup or something. You can see she kind of has like eyelashes too. Or that could be a legitimate color change, like this is some sort of a variant of Pikachus. But these are characters. They're dressed a certain way, and on the website they're even kind of given names like the Pokopia forms. So you can see Mr. Windychu, Mrs. Wavychu. These are like similar to Mosslax or Pikachu or the Smeargle variant that are in Pokopia. And that even reminds me of like Blood Moon Ursaluna, Ash's Greninja, the notch-eared Pichu from way back in Generation 4, if you guys remember that, in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. So all of these Pokemon that have like some sort of a variant, and it's like an individual Pokemon that you can only get one of, that is what these remind me of. And I think they will be in-game. I doubt that you can catch them. They seem more just like characters, like in Pokopia. You'll probably come across them, but maybe you can catch them. But I just kind of doubt using them in VGC or anything like that. If you do catch them, they're probably just like normal Pikachu. Your eyes adjust to them. They're kind of happy. They're showing themselves off. They're waving to you. Then they do a little high five. Okay, look at what's on her tail right now. Some kind of a sports band, like a sweatband is what that reminds me of. But then you'll also notice on his tail, it's kind of like pearls, like jewelry. And you kind of get to see it better whenever they're doing that little high five. You see that, and it's a logo. And I think that's more like the logos for winds, and she has the logo for waves on her hat. You kind of could see that logo there with the pearls. So that's just something to consider, that these guys are representing the different games. And what do these logos represent in game? Well, we don't officially know. We can speculate. It could represent different companies within the game. Like maybe there's a franchise or a company, an IP, and this is their logos, and maybe that's like the evil team or the good team, and vice versa for each of these. So we don't really know what these logos represent, but I would imagine it's a company or an organization within these games. And maybe they're opposing forces. Let's say like the waves or the winds, since they have the cowboy hats and things, maybe they're on the side of ecology and conservation of Pokemon and their habitats, while maybe the waves are more of like tourist. And so they're more about business and tourism rather than conservation and the Pokemon themselves. So maybe it's like opposing forces in that way. I would imagine we're going to see themes of ecology and conservation of ecosystems versus like capitalism and tourism, and using the environment for a profit. I feel like that's definitely going to be in the game at some point. That could be kind of the major theme for the story as well. Game Freak logo. This is a Game Freak product. Immediately you start off in the sky, and you'll notice the camera swoops down as if it's the POV of a bird or something flying. So pay attention to that, because a lot of people, when looking at this trailer, will discuss the fact that we go underwater, and it's very obvious that we're going to be able to dive in this game, and it looks like an underwater route. But what about the fact that they're showing us this swooping aerial shot? So we're obviously going to be able to fly as well, and I think that's what they're trying to represent here. But it starts off in this high view. You can kind of see some land on the left here, some land on the right, And another thing that people are pointing out and that you should be paying attention to is how clear the water is. Obviously that's just beautiful, and that's the main reason that they're doing it. But also from a gameplay mechanic side of things, you can, while you're in this game, I would imagine you're going to be able to fly and dive underwater. And so while you're up in the air and you're flying around, being able to see through the water like this is going to be useful to kind of tell if that's an area that you want to go explore. So it actually has some use to it as well, some utility to the fact that you can see through the water. Big swooping shot. You notice this kind of red Pokeball over there. And here's something that I didn't notice before. That appears to be a boat of some sort, right? Doesn't that look like a boat moving from left to right? Yeah. What is that? That is some sort of like barge or a boat with some tourists on it, kind of like umbrellas. It looks like people and umbrellas of different colors. Something yellow on the left here. Kind of just like coral reefs as well. Very beautiful. You can see the mountains in the background. A lot of cliff sides, some jungle here. Now, if you remember in Scarlet and Violet and the first DLC, there was the, in Kitakami, that mountain, Ogre Mountain, I believe it was called. That had a lot of verticality to it, as far as you could travel up the mountain, across these different paths, over it. But there's also kind of tunnels and cliffs and things going through it that you could go through. And then even caves and tunnels going down as well. So it had a lot of verticality, and it was really unique in the way that it was designed. And so it made something that wasn't a lot of physical space, like horizontally, it made it kind of feel bigger because all of the vertical exploration you could do. And this right here kind of makes me feel like we'll be able to do that as well in this game. It's kind of also like Tears of the Kingdom. Now, obviously, the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, they are inspired by Breath of the Wild. I mean, the entire gaming industry was and is. Oh, interesting. Look at this tree here. It's green. It's got some yellow. That will probably be a gameplay mechanic. And I'm also noticing like the yellow on that coral reef as well. So I'm curious what the colors are going to mean in relation to gameplay mechanics. Maybe that's like a signal of something that you need to do or somewhere you need to go. But okay, so Tears of the Kingdom had elevation. It was the same sized map on a horizontal plane. It was the same size map as Breath of the Wild, but it had the entire kind of underground, like dark area. And Tears of the Kingdom, they also had some places in the sky you can go as well. And so that kind of verticality increased how big the world felt. And I think Pokemon and Game Freak is inspired by the developers of the Legends of Zelda series, and they're going to kind of implement some of those things into their games in the future. And a piece of evidence that I have for that is the Legends series of games. Whenever your character does that kind of roll and dodge to the side, to me that sounds just like Link in the Breath of the Wild games. And so I'm curious, maybe that's just a Japanese motif throughout many different games, but to me that seems like, okay, they were definitely directly inspired. And so just a thought there. Let's continue on with the trailer. Okay, boom. We're a minute and 34 in. This feels, I remember the first time I saw this felt like one of the first things that they showed us was this windmill. And it's in the center of the shot here. It's prominent. Boom, here it is, this sweeping shot with the camera angle going to the side. Why are they focusing on this windmill, you may be wondering. And now that I think about it, I think it's because it has to do with winds. They're showcasing that this entire environment is going to be very windy. But to me, the first thing that came to my mind was the meme with Scarlet and Violet and the windmill not working very well. It's like 4 frames per second windmill. So it's like a famous situation with the game not performing well. And so to me, this seems like the Pokemon Company came out swinging. Here we are on the Switch 2, our new engine. Here's our new game. With a great graphics. This whole trailer, the graphics look amazing, and I think they have something to prove. People say that Game Freak is lazy. I think that Game Freak wants to make their games great, and they have something to prove, and they're coming out swinging. Here's our graphics, here's a windmill, and look at the frames per second. It's perfectly smooth. Boom, and then they go to the Pokemon. So if we kind of go a little bit slower there, what else is in the shot? There's some kind of other building back there, some palm trees, lots of palm trees here. So maybe we will have another palm tree Pokemon, another grass type like Tropius. Look at that. That mountain formation. That's interesting. That's going to be something. Here's this building, the windmill. And then you got to go slow. Immediately pause it. We're in the jungle. Look how thick this jungle looks. This looks amazing. I would love to explore this in a Pokemon game. I mean, we haven't really had an environment quite like this in a Pokemon game, have we? And if we have, it makes me think of Hoenn, maybe Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire, Omega Ruby, Omega Alpha Sapphire. In the Hoenn region, we kind of had environments like this, but it was 2D, not necessarily 3D. So this is sick. This looks so great. And here we have Gloom, which the evolution Vileplume is based off of that flower. That's like the death stench flower that's famous to Indonesia or local to the Indonesian region. So Vileplume being here makes sense. But what also makes sense is perhaps another evolution, a third evolution set of Bellossom or Vileplume, because those are split evolutions. Maybe we could get a third split where it's like a ghost type, a ghost grass Vileplume kind of third evolution there, or we could get a Vileplume regional variant, or I was going to say convergent, but that wouldn't make sense with Gloom because it is Gloom. And then here's Tropius as well. Is this Tropius's time to get an evolution? I mean, now or never with Tropius. I think it's been the single stage for so long. To me, the design looks pretty complete. Like a pre-evolution would make more sense maybe, but obviously everybody wants an evolution to it, and I do too. So it could get an evolution, but maybe not become that much more complex because it already kind of is complex and cool looking. But I mean, it's a flying dinosaur. Like that's so cool. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the flying aspect of Tropius. I prefer the dinosaur sauropod look. I mean, it just looks sick. If it didn't have these large wings and it was just a sauropod, that would be cooler in my opinion. And then maybe got an evolution that had upgraded it to some extent. But let's see. These wings, why do I not like them? I think they're just too thin, and you can see here like it's a little bit unbelievable maybe that it could fly, but it's Pokemon, it's fiction. But anyways, look at the graphics. This looks great. This almost looks like Unreal Engine with the lighting and the fog right here in the background. I mean, that looks great. The Pokemon themselves almost look more cartoony than the background. They look a little bit out of place almost. So that's kind of interesting as the graphics get more realistic. Like, look at this background here. That looks like Unreal Engine 5 to me. Right here you can kind of see it's not as good. The grass and the ground, the textures. And this right here, this log looks pretty low resolution. But this background, maybe it's the lighting that's so impressive. But I wonder if they keep going in this realism direction, will the Pokemon eventually be cartoony looking and stick out of, be out of place for the region or the background itself? Now, what's interesting to me right here with these shots is the dramatic camera angles, kind of swooping, also being at an angle. I'm just not sure like what they're trying to convey there. But it's exciting and it's cool. It's interesting. It's very dynamic. So here's Wailord and Wailmer spitting out some water. And so people are wondering, are Pokemon in the wild going to be more dynamic in a way, like kind of doing these idle animations on their own? That would be cool. Let me see. Let me adjust this camera. So are Pokemon in the wild on their own going to be making these animations and doing natural things, kind of like in Pokemon Snap? Like you're going down this trail, going down that railway, and you'll see the Pokemon, and they're naturally just doing kind of like actions, and it makes it more realistic. feel more like a wild animal, perhaps. And so are Whalmer and Wailord going to be doing this on their own in the wild, or is this a cutscene? Hopefully this is kind of them showing off the fact that Pokemon will be more dynamic and active in the wild and doing things. Scarlet and Violet, the Pokemon, there's too many of them. You can see your render distance is pretty big in Scarlet and Violet, and there's like a circle around you at which Pokemon spawn, and in the new Switch 2 version it's like really evident where that circle ends and begins, and so you're just kind of walking around and Pokemon are popping in and out of the world, and it takes you out of the immersion a little bit. It's like you are the reason these Pokemon are spawning in and out, rather than the Pokemon existing in the world on their own and you coming across them. And I think that's because of the fact that you see them popping in and out of the world, in and out of existence. And so in this game, what I would like to see is I turn the corner and this Whalmer and Wailord are already there, and they're already interacting with each other, spitting up water. And we got that a little bit in Scarlet and Violet. I don't know if you remember, you would see some Pokemon kind of like running in a direction, running down the hill or something like that, and that felt really cool. Like the Paldean Tauros or Cyclizar, you'd be in a field and you'd see them running and they're ignoring you, they're just running in a direction. More things like that will make this feel more like an immersive Pokemon world, like the anime, and that's kind of what a lot of people have been wanting for a long time. Okay, this shot reveals kind of the most new things with the region. Extremely high up shot. Again, I'm wondering, is this a viewpoint that we will have access to with some sort of flying ability? But right here, I mean, there's a lot to break down. Top of this building, these are walkways. We will be able to walk on top of this building. Now, this building has water starting here and spiraling down. I believe that's water. Is this a water slide? Is this a water park? I don't think so. To me, it looks like a resort. So maybe it is kind of like a water slide. But you can be walking around here at the top. This is like a windmill. And look at this design right here. How it kind of spikes these spikes. Is this indicative of a legendary Pokemon? Does a legendary Pokemon in this region have this kind of crown-like design at the top? Is this a tail? We don't know, but we could find out. And this looks like a Pokeball, I think, right here. But these three kind of windmill blades, like fan blades, you could say, is that indicative of the Cyclone legendary? So people have noticed the bottom of this building looks like an octopus, like a kraken octopus. So I kind of have a theory that the bottom of this building was inspired by the Waves box legendary, and the top of the building was inspired by the Winds box legendary. And I think the Winds box legendary is going to look like a storm, a tornado, or cyclone, mostly a tornado. And the Waves legendary is going to look like a giant octopus or a kraken. So this kind of resort styled building, I think, was inspired by those two. And this kind of goes into the themes that I think for the games. One region, one version of the game, Winds or Waves, is going to represent tourism, while the other one represents conservation. So it's going to be like capitalism versus conservation of the ecosystem. And those are going to be the themes here. So this is like a huge, like, capitalistic, money-hungry resort that's kind of maybe hurting the ecosystem and the environment here. And then here's some more natural areas. This looks like a route. I could easily see this being like Route 1 or something. And then you can just kind of see the tourism buildings. Maybe not, like this could be like a little cabana. Maybe that's some tourist huts right here. I believe maybe one of these huts is where that first CGI, like live action scene took place. Here's a little cove we'll be able to explore. Here's again some of that really clear water you can see through. And this looks to be like maybe, you know, a town in the island. Maybe this is the largest town. I wouldn't mind that. If this is the largest, most civilized area, everything else is just wild. Personally, I love that. I loved Legends Arceus. But I would imagine maybe there's a few more larger towns on this island. Okay, so here's a better shot of the bottom of that building. And you can see this definitely looks like tentacles curled up. Right here, tentacles curled up. Now look at the shadow right here. Okay, I think that shadow was from the windmill. Let's go back. Yeah, that's from the top of the windmill. Okay. So looking at this, kind of just clear water. These all look like cabanas, somewhere like a tourist would be staying. There's like a pool with some umbrellas and chairs. This is definitely a resort. That's what this building is. So this is a resort for tourists. Here's a boat. I'm interested to see if we can take boats anywhere. That would be exciting. What else? Definitely just a touristy resort, you know? I don't know what else to say. Maybe there's like some restaurants at the top of the building. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else to point out here, but very cool to see a location like that. All right, boom. Here's the male protagonist for the Winds edition of the game. Here's the Winds logo, is what I'll call it for now, representing a organization or a company that represents whatever the ideals of the Winds game are or is. And here is some sort of a device. To me, this looks like a hoverboard. You can see it kind of have like, it has fans right here. So maybe you can fly around on this thing using that fan. Here's the backpack. Not much else there. It looks like maybe he's wearing a wetsuit for when he dives underwater. And keep in mind Windychu and Wavychu as well. This guy's dressed like Windychu, isn't he? And so he's kind of strapping up, ready for his adventure. And I would imagine this is like a cutscene. In Legends ZA, they had like one cutscene in the beginning of the game that looked really good, and it looked like a AAA title. What is that? See that darker blue right there? Maybe that is a Pokemon? Or is that a Pokemon? Did I just discover the first new Pokemon in Gen 10? Is that... Okay, so the sky is a lighter blue right here. Okay, it's a darker blue right there as well. Maybe that's just sky in the background, or it's probably just sky in the background. Okay, that could have been a Pokemon. Kind of grass huts with some modern... and this is definitely that part of that building, right? So our trainers are gearing up. And do we start our adventure from the tourist resort? And here's the female protagonist for the Waves game. She also has a hoverboard, a little bit different of a backpack, and she has a hat rather than a cowboy cap. Also wearing a wetsuit of sorts. She's gearing up, ready to go. Here's his face. There's kind of some resort sign there in the background. There's another logo that appears to be a wave of water, I would assume, with 5 stars. Is this a 5-star resort? There's more waves right there. Now it cuts to her. Here's the Waves logo of the game, is what I'm calling it, with another shot of her hoverboard right there. Now he's running away from the touristy building. And from this angle, you can kind of see the tornado look of it. Kind of, you can see it spirals up here. That's why I describe it as a tornado. Some palm trees in the background. How do the graphics look? How do we feel about the graphics? You know, how's the texture and resolution right here? On the ground, the grass, the rocks. It's good. And you know, this game's not coming out to 2027, and you have to think, how long ago was this trailer made? This can all still improve from here, but are those the things that we really care about as Pokemon fans? The textures on the ground and the rocks? Personally, I think the game looks great. If it were to look like this, but it was a fun game to play, I just want better mechanics. I want the game to feel like a video game. I'm enjoying Pokopia right now. It feels like a video game. So Generation 10, I really wanted to play, be inspired by Breath of the Wild, like put some more gameplay mechanics in there. Make it interactive. Make it a video game. Whoa. Okay. So a bunch of Pokemon right here. That is the Generation 9 little grasshopper guy. There's some flowers, some red banners right there, some orange colors. He's kind of wearing this orange. I would describe it as burnt orange, red. We got blue. So the color of waves is going to be dark blue. And then there's a secondary color. And then the winds is going to be white with a secondary color of burnt orange, I would imagine. More of that structure in the background there. There is Nimble, I believe he's called. Talo, returning Talo. Nimble. So this is maybe a cutscene of us running off for our first time, or maybe this is just really what it's going to look like. And I like how there's not a billion Pokemon like in Scarlet and Violet just spawning all around you and like staring at you. I would like Pokemon to be a little bit more sparse and some of the rare ones to feel more rare and like you really have to go look for them. And the common ones maybe being running around, you'll see them, but just not overwhelming you like in Scarlet and Violet. So in this scene, you can see some more of the touristy cabanas. Here is maybe like a tourist spot where you can get your refreshments and stuff, but it's just a Pokemon Center and the Pokemart. But yeah, this is supposed to look like a touristy, like you go up to the tiki bar and get your margarita or something, you know. That's what this is kind of looking like to me. Get your hot dogs, get your popcorn. And then here, some Tangela and an Oddish. So they're showing Oddish. They showed Gloom earlier. Here's an Oddish, Tangela. So all of the Pokemon I'm seeing in this trailer, I'm immediately thinking, okay, you're going to get something. You're going to get an evolution. You're going to get a regional variant. You're going to get a convergent. Maybe less so convergence, but I care more about regional variants and just new evolutions, split evolutions. So Tangela's cool. Professor Tangrowth and Pokopia, I'm enjoying kind of the lore of Tangela. It's cool. It's a cool Pokemon. I could see it getting Tangrowth. Its base stats are pretty high already, right? I don't know if it necessarily needs an evolution, but maybe a split or a convergent. And then here's an exciting quick shot to showing off the waves in the water. You can see they put a lot of time and effort into this water, and it looks good. A lot of people, this part of the trailer really stands out to them. The ocean looks dangerous. It looks scary. It looks like you're going to have skill to traverse it. It looks like people who grew up near the ocean or have any experience with it, this really resonates with them. This looks like a real ocean and like real water. Scary, choppy water with some white, sea foam. And it cuts to our trainer covering her face from the wind. And it kind of makes me think, how much of this game are you going to have to fight the winds and the waves? How much of a factor is that going to be? And then it cuts to this. I believe this is pretty close to that big resort building that we've been seeing. I believe this is you could probably line it up from that aerial shot earlier in the trailer. And you can see these are the cabanas. I would imagine one of these is where that live action scene with Pikachu took place and Windychu and Wavychu. Here's the Pokemon Center from earlier with the Pokemart. There's a red balloon thing. Maybe it's a Pokeball. And you can see just how beautiful the water is, completely clear. Oh man, I just can't wait to explore this in Generation 10. Imagine you're a trainer getting to just go through all of this, and you'll be able to go through the water as well and even dive, so it's going to be sick. In this, you can see these little balls on a string going up, and I believe there's going to be a large Pokeball at the top of that, signifying where the Pokemon Center is. So while you're out exploring, you'll be able to see that. Some other kind of darker colored buildings over here. Okay, right here, there's some writing on the rock, I'm assuming. And here's a bit of a different environment. This kind of reminds me of like Vietnam, like Oh yeah, you can tell this is farmland. There's some water in straight lines with some grass, and you can tell like whenever there's slopes, but they want to farm on it, they kind of make it into steps, and that that happens in a lot of places that are kind of island environments because they don't have enough land to just use flat land, so they really have to make the most of what they have, including slopes and kind of places that typically wouldn't be ideal for farming. They make use of it. So maybe this is like rice farms or something similar to Kitakami, like how we saw. So it's going to look like kind of Vietnam, Kitakami, Indonesian, Hawaii, just sort of islander tropical vibes. And that's what I see here. Again, there's that tree with green on top and yellow on the bottom. Here's Ladybug and Ledian. A lot of people want an evolution for Ledian, right? Is that a volcano in the background there? You see that? So maybe it's going to finally... Because this looks like a second stage. This, 1, 2, maybe the evolution's back here somewhere hiding. Ledian, please, it needs an evolution. Let me look it up. Ledian. Base stat of 390. Come on. Special defense, 85 speed. A third evolution would go so hard. Keep the bug flying type and just give it stats and an ability and better moves and make it just look cool. Go more into the because this is supposed to look like the Japanese like superhero bug trope. Lean into that a little bit more. Make it cool. Make it sick. All right. Then we cut to a scene in a cave. Creepy. I see a face, an eye, a nose, a mouth. Looks like a creepy onyx or like a... I don't know. There's Slugma. Everyone's talking about how Slugma is lighting up in this environment around it, kind of just showing off that new light engine that we have for this game. Here's our main character sprinting straight to it. This looks good. And so we're talking about the kind of different aspects of this game. You're going to have the winds. You're going to be exploring the skies, obviously. Like in Tears of the Kingdom, you're exploring the skies, going after those dragons in the skies and stuff like that. You're going to be diving, like in the Hoenn region. You're going to be underwater using the HM dive, but in this game, it's probably not going to be an HM, but you're going to be diving underwater, exploring those water routes, finding Pokemon, and that's winds and that's waves. But then they also show us volcanoes and caves. So I believe the third legendary, or just maybe just a third motif of this game, or just a third avenue of exploration, is going to be cave systems. Both throughout the mountains, but also maybe just underground, maybe even underground caves from the water. Like in the Hoenn region, maybe we'll be able to surface underwater in a cave. So that verticality just, again, makes it more explorable, just makes it a better experience. It makes the region feel bigger. And that's a really good trick that Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, mostly Tears of the Kingdom, used. And I think Game Freak is definitely taking notes there with this game. And then here's the Centipede Pokemon Scorp. Let me look him up. Venipede, Centiskorch, Sizzlipede. This is a cool Pokemon. Love this Pokemon. Centiskorch, Bugfire, 525. This is a good Pokemon. Yeah, so that's sick. Also, is it giving off light? Kind of more just towards the front and back, but not really on the sides. So it's kind of showing each Pokemon is dynamically giving off light in unique ways. I don't know if anybody else has picked that up. Slugma is molten lava all around, so he's just giving off light in every direction. But Centiskorch, Sizzlipede is only giving off light towards the back and the front. So each Pokemon will give off light differently and dynamically based on their own attributes. And here is Pikachu. Is he using an animation or just a move? We don't know. A waterfall. There's that same tree we've been seeing with the green on top and yellow on the bottom. Some longer grass here. Okay, so this is a wild Pikachu we encountered. We ran up to him. He's flexing on us. And then I'm assuming we battled it, weakened it, and now we're throwing a Pokeball to catch it. This part of the trailer I do not like. You'll notice the Pokeball is suspended in thin air. It doesn't drop to the ground. Now, I don't think that's final. I think that is a result of this game still being in development at the time of this trailer. But it's kind of hard to tell. Maybe it's a perspective thing, but to me, it looks like this ball is floating in the air. Shots to Wingull, flying in the air, where hopefully we will be able to be up there with them and encounter them. Some Krabby, it's nighttime, here's the moon. Corsola. Now look at this building. It looks like the sun is just rising, or maybe it's setting, and you can see this touristy resort building has some lights on the bottom. There's, again, like the top of that structure I was pointing out earlier has these spikes. Look at that. These spikes, almost like a crown, maybe. One of the legendaries is gonna have this spiky design. Either the legendary or a Pokemon in the region, or maybe not one of the box legendaries. Maybe it's like there's the region's other legendary trio or group of 4. So calling that now. And then look at these lights. We have green, yellow, blue. Blue, yellow, green. These colors probably mean something, but maybe it's just a light show. They're celebrating. This is just kind of showing the touristy atmosphere here with the natural environment as well. Again, just each Pokemon we see, we're seeing their dynamic movements and their animations, and they're showing it off. And so I do think they're showing off this is a new feature. Each Pokemon is going to be more dynamic and active and animated in the wild and as you encounter them. I hope these aren't just cutscenes. And here's Temple in the swamp. Swamp looks great. Kind of marshland environment. Carnivine and Tropius are up there for me as to Pokemon that are going to get something in this region. So here's Carnivine. It's carnivorous plant Pokemon from the Sinnoh region. Maybe it's interesting. Each region is based on a place in the real world, but they have Pokemon in them from other places in the real world or Pokemon region, quote unquote. For example, in the Galar region, we have Kaparaja, which is clearly from from India. So as you get introduced to each new region, it's kind of interesting. Maybe Carnivine is originally from here. And this is its natural region, and that's why it's going to be able to fully evolve. So, just things to consider. Back to the lava cave with Slugma again. Now here's some Duskull. They're also dynamically giving out light in a unique way from their eyes here. Now here's a building. I believe this is just someone's home, but it has an ad on it, so maybe it's a shop as well. Maybe it's a hotel or something. Just so far with the graphics, the textures are upgraded from Scarlet and Violet, don't get me wrong, but they don't seem that advanced. But what's really advanced to me seems to be the lighting engine. And that's making all the difference. Again, there's that windmill. Here's our character running, showing the fact that she's covering her face from the wind. I love this environment here. A mixture of the grass and the green and the sand. And what is she looking at? The Generation 10 starters. Starts off with a shot from the back. The 3, your first time seeing the starters from each generation, or just a new Pokemon in each generation, it doesn't look like a Pokemon. So this takes me back to my first time seeing this trailer. I was like, these don't look like Pokemon. This looks like Fakemon. This looks like a fan trailer. But out of the 3, we got a bird, a dog, a lizard. My initial reaction, obviously, the lizard is sick. It's a amphibian. It's a reptile. It's a gecko. It reminded me of Mudkip. You know, I gotta go with the cool reptile, right? Here's Brout from the front. Here's his eyebrows and his little beak. Here is Pombon. Has this little tuft of hair that looks like a paintbrush or something, right? Some more flowers in the background. It's based on a Pomeranian. His little tail tucking up forward. It's tufts of hair up towards the front here. Here's a shot of the tail, mostly of Gekwa. And then you see him from the front, and you can kind of hear all three of their cries at once mixed together there. So I'll let that play real quick. It's pretty cute. Couldn't necessarily like pick them apart from each other, but again, here's his background. So this is probably the cutscene where you get to pick your starter, or maybe just one of the scenes where you're like interacting with them before you pick them, kind of building up to the part where you get to pick them. But look at this background. I mean, this just looks so fun to explore. But obviously, we have the three different personalities here. We have goofy, like not intelligent, kind of just like no thoughts behind those eyes kind of a look here. We have the angry Brout, and then Gekwa, not showing too much emotion here, but it's from the website, it says it's kind of like has an attitude, or thinks it's better than everyone else. I love the stance that Brout is in. They're all kind of posted up, but so Pomeranian dog, gecko, and some sort of a bird. We don't know what kind of bird. And then Brout, his initial reaction was angry, but now he's kind of neutral. They all look neutral at this time. And you can see this red pouch whenever Pompon barks. It generates flames from inside. Notice the purple, pinkish purple eyes of Gekwa. Is it going to be fairy? Is it going to be poison? Is it going to be psychic? One of the three, I would imagine. A water droplet on its face there. Obviously grass with the bird here. Brout, fire. He's happy, he's energetic according to the website. Now look in the background. What is that? See the little chain? That is that Pokeball thing from earlier. Again, tons of flowers. Here's a cutscene introducing Brout. Are we going to see this exact same thing in game? Maybe. Got a waterfall in the background. This, to me, this reminds me of, it's like his training montage or something. He goes and trains by the waterfall. He's energetic. He's angry. He's ready. Now here's Pombon. Instead of being in a training environment like the waterfall, Pombon is relaxing at the beach with the touristy like hammock in the background and the chair under the umbrella. So Pombon is chilling. Pombon is like the rich touristy girl who's here on vacation brought a Pombon and it's in her purse. That's kind of the vibe I get from Pombon. Kind of just shaking its fur. And then here he is. He's finally ready for action. He trains in the cave with the lava. And so you could also theorize Gekwa could help you explore the water. Brout could help you explore the sky, and Pombon could help you explore the cave. Now, I believe they have shown like Pokemon lighting things up, so it's almost like an HM Flash. And maybe Pombon, by barking, he's gonna like light up the place. And this is your guy to explore the caves. Just something to think about. Gekwa, here's Gekwa in a better mood. Kind of by the poolside, also in a touristy area. You can see Gekwa was on all fours earlier, but here it is, posted up, leaning back, bipedal. Is it going to stand up? Is it going to be on two legs? Probably. It already kind of is. You can see it's more humanoid in this frame. It's smiling. You can see its mouth kind of open. It's laughing, covering its face with a hand. Very humanoid. And then here it is on all fours, but barely, roaring. This reminds me of like My Little Pets or whatever, My Little Pet Shop or whatever. That's what that looks like. Here's our character again, looking out into the ocean. What is this? Is this a building? No. A lot of natural things, not a lot of buildings in this game. Kind of zooming out. Do we see any man-made structures? Maybe that's one. Okay, but here we go. The cloud everyone is talking about. Oh, that's clearly the legendary. That's a hint to the legendary. Why would they just show one legendary in the trailer? Unless it's the third legendary, which it could be. Or a mythical or something. But if they're going to show a legendary, they'd show both, right? In the first trailer, winds and waves. People are like, oh, this is like, I don't know. To me, it looks like a Gyarados. You know the Who's That Pokemon? It's just a silhouette. This looks like a Gyarados, right? Like, this is exactly like what a Gyarados looks like. So why is there a cloud with a Gyarados in the background? What is that? Why is that a big hint for this game? I don't know. I mean, Gyarados is flying water, so it's winds and waves. Maybe this is like a ride Pokemon, or it's significant to the region for some reason. Maybe it's a variant, because I know Scarlet and Violet, they were thinking about doing a convergent Gyarados. So maybe they're going to give Gyarados some love in this game with a regional or something. Maybe it's significant in some way. But I've heard online speculation of the raid mechanic for this game being clouds. And that makes sense. I mean, you see a cloud that's shaped like a certain Pokemon and you fly into it, and that's how you start or get access to the raid kind of mechanic for the game. So we'll see. Maybe I'll eat my words, and this definitely turns out to be the legendary. It's the third legendary. It's like a combination of winds and waves. It's like the storm electric Pokemon or something. It's like a dragon serpent. Each third legendary for most games is a dragon. So we'll see. But maybe it's just insignificant. We're all looking too into it. But there's no way. Look at that. I mean, each cloud is white and this is dark. This is a silhouette of something. Kind of zooms out. Definitely some human structure right there, I think. Not much else to see in this scene. Yeah, so yeah, look at this. Look at this frame. There's nothing to see. It's stuff we've already seen, kind of. It's just water and background of the region. Maybe there's a boat right there. So why would they be showing us this? It's because of this. If you look at this, this is what captures your eyes. Everything is intentional in this trailer. And Pokemon in general. They don't do things just to do them. And then swoops into the water. So kind of like a swooping shot from earlier. We were seeing the camera swoop like you're flying through the air, which I think is indicative of the flying mechanic. Here we are, the diving mechanic, Lumineon. Kind of looks like it's lighting up the area, like underwater, how we are in caves. You can see there's clearly a path here. Straightforward, there's a path. This sand is different than this sand. There's Corsola. There's some Pokemon there, kind of lighting up the area with those eyes. Not necessarily lighting up the area, but just you can see the new lighting engine. Pokemon are dynamically, actively going to be lighting things around them. This is that coral that we've been seeing from above. And so it's a little bit deeper here, but you can see at the top of the rocks there's coral. And so you can see how from when you're flying above, you're going to look down and see things that you might want to go interact with and dive into the water. So that's cool. Jellicent, or whatever its pre-evolution is called. Wailord. So just, to me, this looks like an underwater route. Could we even perhaps walk along the bottom of the water? Maybe. Are we going to be able to swim and move around in 3D space? I would imagine as well. But with this path, this almost has me thinking like maybe it's more limited than that. Okay, so yeah, maybe my expectations are too high, because coming into this, I'm thinking this game we're going to be able to fly around and maneuver in 3D space in both air and water. I would imagine we can just fly around and hover and fly, and then also dive underwater and just swim around and go up, down, left, right. That's kind of what I'm expecting going into this. Maybe those expectations are too high and I will be sorely disappointed. Maybe you're just going to like how the camera just goes straight down to the bottom and then boom, you're walking along in the straight path. Maybe that's it. We'll see. So you're kind of moving forward. What is this Pokemon called? Why can I not think of any Pokemon's names? Electric Eel Pokemon. There's the boy and the girl version of these guys. Some Wailord in the background. I wish the Wailord were bigger, like in Sword and Shield. Like absolutely massive. That'd be cool. Krabby walking along the bottom. Did I see a little Pokemon back there? What is this? Is that a Pokemon or is it a rock? I say it's a Pokemon. Right there. What is that? I don't know. Anything else? Not really. I'll watch that one more time. Just look left and right. Is there anything that they're showing? I bet there's just like a new Pokemon or a legendary just peeking its head out for a second, and we're just missing it. And then it shows you going back towards the surface where you'll probably surface, be able to fly around. Pokemon logo. The reveal of winds. Look at this logo. A feather, a wing, a gust of wind, rainbow colors, light in the center, kind of rainbow colors. Okay, remember the building, the resort building was showing those different lights, like spotlights pointing up towards the sky. And what colors were they? Yellow, green, and blue. And pink, maybe. I don't know if there's pink. But here's the colors that have something to do with the game. Maybe yellow, green, blue, purple, pink. That's how many legendaries there's going to be or something. I don't know. Pokemon wins. And what is up with the text, the way it looks? Everything means something here, I guarantee it. This S looks like a serpent with a tail, similar to the Gyarados serpent, right? These all look like tail fins. This W is shaped maybe like a legendary or something. I don't know. Waves. Look at this logo. Same colors. Just pure white light in the center. Yellow, green, blue, purple, pink. This looks like a wave, but also maybe some feathers down here or something. Tentacles. These are tentacles. Look at the bottom of the logo. These are tentacles. The Waves legendary is an octopus. I'm calling it now. The Waves legendary is an octopus. And at the top, kind of this foamy, splashing water. And then the Waves text is all just kind of straight and serious. Okay, so on that note, I'm also calling it now. There's going to be motifs of protecting the environment versus capitalism, tourism versus ecology and conservation. Waves is going to represent the... I think it's going to represent like capitalism and tourism and using land and the environment for profit. And I think Waves is going to represent saving the environment, saving the ecology, protecting the Pokemon, protecting the environment. Pokemon wins and Waves. They cut back to this. You can hear the water. You can hear the wind. Global simultaneous release in 2027. I think we all, our stomachs dropped. We had a bad reaction to that. I know I did. But it only took me about 2 seconds, more than 2 seconds. It took me a little bit, but I was like, okay, 2027, that's a good thing. We've been wanting this. We want them to take more time on these games and make it a passion project, put some love into it, and give themselves time to make a really good project, a good game. Not just another, every year we're gonna get 150 new Pokemon to sell Pokemon cards and merch. Like, as fans of the Pokemon, the franchise is big. Fans of the game, you should be happy that they're slowing things down. This is a risk for the franchise because their business model relies on 100 new Pokemon creatures coming out every year to sell 100 more trading cards, 100 more, merch. That's how they really make their money, is the trading cards, and the merch and everything like that. The mobile games, I mean, this obviously they make a lot of money selling these games as well, but the whole business on a larger scale, kind of looking outside of things other than the games themselves, it runs off of the fact that people are into these creatures and they can sell the creatures themselves. I mean, printing Pokemon cards, that's like printing money. So as fans of the games, which I'm mostly a fan of the games, well, I'm a fan of Pokemon, but the games is like my favorite part, right? I know a lot of people, that's kind of a part of the community. It's not the whole of the Pokemon community. So us fans of the games need to be happy that they're taking a risk and postponing it. I'm sorry, that's how it is. If you're a fan of the designs and the creatures themselves, I understand you're disappointed because you want new creatures every year. But I think this is a blessing, and I think, like I keep saying in this whole trailer breakdown, they're inspired by the creators of Breath of the Wild, and the creators of Breath of the Wild got nothing but praise for delaying their game for years and finally releasing it as a masterpiece. And the whole gaming industry saw that, and how much the community or the general populace was able to understand that and comprehend that that's why those games were so great, because they delayed them. As soon as the gaming industry got the green light to postpone their games and it's going to be a good thing, I think everyone took note of that. And Pokemon, Game Freak, they did the same thing. This game has been worked on for what, like 5 years now, when it's typically each game only got like 3 or 2? I don't know. But I'm pretty sure this game got at least 2 more additional years than most Pokemon games got in development. So that's great. And then it cuts to black. And just listen, because now we have nothing to look at. You only can listen. What do you hear? You hear wind, you hear waves, but I also heard thunder in the background. And it ends right there. Okay, but I'm going to go back. I'm going to play that again and not talk. You can totally hear thunder, so just listen. One more time. Now, my theory for the third legendary... is it's either going to be land, because it's land, air, sea. Winds and waves are both forms of waves. Winds are waves through the air. Waves are waves through the water. It's just transfer of energy across a medium. Land, air, sea. The third thing is land. Earthquakes are waves through the land. Transfer of energy through a medium of land. Earthquakes. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically this is the weather trio, from Hoenn all over again. Slightly different this time, obviously. Winds is Rayquaza, waves is Kyogre, third legendary Groudon. That's one of my theories for the third legendary, but it's kind of also pretty obvious these are like storms. Winds and waves are storms, hurricanes, cyclone, tornado, water spout. So what comes in a storm? Thunder and lightning. Third legendary, they cut to black there. We heard winds, we heard waves, we heard thunder. So maybe the third legendary is going to be like a thunderstorm, electric, lightning, storm legendary, kind of combining the two there. So we'll see. Anyways, that's my breakdown of the trailer. Thank you guys for watching. This is a new channel I made. I'm going to be talking about Pokemon, keeping us entertained through this kind of dry period of 2026. I'm excited for this game to come out. I'm going to be live streaming Pokopia, live streaming Fire Red and Leaf Green, and just making a ton of Pokemon content in general, giving you guys my thoughts. So if you're into that sort of thing, definitely check it out and subscribe, and thank you for watching.